Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Influence Economy podcast. I'm your host, Shayna Davis. I'm so glad that you're here, but before we get started, I want you to do a favor. So, wherever it is that you're listening to this episode, I want you to take a screenshot. With that screenshot, I want you to post it on LinkedIn, tag me here at Shayna Rattler Davis, and then I just want to hear your biggest aha moment or your biggest takeaway from this episode. And the reason why I ask you to do that is because I just think that there's far too many leaders out there that really don't know how to cultivate and build the external influence that the new world demands. And the more times that we share these episodes, the more times that it's going to expose people to the signals that they actually need to develop in order to lead better. So I appreciate you being willing to do that. I'm flying solo today, so let's get to it. Let me say something that might make a few founders uncomfortable. You can have the most innovative product in the room, the clearest roadmap, the strongest team, and still lose the room completely. Not because your idea isn't good, not because the timing is off, but because nobody could feel why it matters. And that's a storytelling problem. But before you click off thinking that this episode isn't for you because you're not a storyteller, stay with me because what I'm about to break down has nothing to do with being naturally charismatic or having some dramatic origin story that makes people cry. What this is about is something much more specific. It's about the gap between what founders say when they talk about their companies and what actually moves people. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So here's the scene I want you to picture. A founder walks into a room, could be investors, stage, high stakes client meeting. They're sharp, clearly brilliant. You can tell they've lived inside this problem for years, and then they start talking. They walk through the technology, they explain the architecture, they break down the features, the differentiators, the roadmap. And the room is completely flat. Not hostile, not confused, just flat. Nobody's leaning in, nobody's asking the follow up questions that signal real interest. And the founder walks out thinking the pitch needs work more data, better slides, tighter messaging. But that's not the problem. The problem is that they never told a story, or if they did, it was the wrong one. So here's what I mean by that. Most founders, when they talk about what they've built, they lead with the what the product does, what problem it solves technically, what the market size is, what the competitive landscape looks like. And look, all of that matters. I'm not telling you to throw out your data, but data is not a story. Data is evidence. And evidence only lands when someone already cares. The story is what makes them care first. And here's why founders default to the technical talk. Obviously, it's not because they're bad communicators. It's actually because they're really good at what they built. Because when you spent 2, 3, 5, 10 years living inside a problem, debugging it, rebuilding it, losing sleep over it, the product becomes the most real thing in the world to you. So when you walk into a room, that's what comes out because in your mind, the product is the story. The features speak for themselves. The innovation is obvious, except it's not. Not to someone who hasn't lived inside it the way that you have. And the technical talk, as impressive as it is to the people who built it, creates distance instead of connection. It puts your listener in the role of evaluator instead of believer. And you don't want evaluators, you want believers. So, what does a real story actually look like? So, I want to give you a framework, not a formula, because this isn't about following a script, it's about answering three questions. And most founders, they can answer the first one, but almost none of them can answer the third one. Question one, why does this matter to you? Not to the market, not to investors, to you. What is the moment, the experience, the frustration, the observation that made you decide this problem was worth your life? Because there's always a moment. There's always something that happened before the business plan, before the pitch deck, before the funding round. Something personal, something real. And that thing, that moment is where your story actually starts. So I'll give you an example. Imagine a founder who built a workforce intelligence platform for manufacturing companies. And if they walk in and lead with the platform, like the AI capabilities, the integration specs, the dashboard, the room here's software company. But if they lead with the fact that their father worked on a factory floor for 30 years, was passed over for every promotion because no one can see what he contributed, and they watched that happen and thought, someone should be able to measure this. Now the room hears something completely different. Now they hear not leave evaluating a product. They actually see that person win and the power of why it matters to you. So question 2 is, why does it matter right now? Because this is how you connect your story to the current moment in the world. What's happening economically, culturally, technologically. That's why what matters for, like, what is the right time that you're building it right now. This is where your market awareness comes in, but not framed as a market slide, framed as context, as the conditions that make your solution not just smart, but necessary. Because timing is part of the story. A great idea at the wrong time is just a good idea. And you want your listeners to feel like they're watching a movement begin. And then question number 3 is, why will it matter to the world where we're heading into? And this is the one that most founders skip, or they answer it in a way that's so vague that it lands nowhere. Like, we're going to transform the industry, or we're building the future of X. And those phrases are so overused these days that they become like white noise. So what I'm asking you to do is cast a vision, to actually describe specifically, vividly, what the world looks like if what you're building works. Not in 5 bullet points, but in language that makes someone feel it. Because here's the truth about vision. People don't follow products. They follow futures they want to be a part of. And if you can make someone see the future you're building, like really see it, they'll find a reason to say yes. Now, let me push on something here, because some of you are listening to this and you're thinking, okay, but Shana, my investors, they want numbers. My clients want ROI. My board wants projections. I get it. I hear you. But I want you to challenge the assumption underneath it, because the founders who are consistently raising capital, closing enterprise deals, and building movements around their companies, they're not skipping the story. They're leading with it. And then the data follows that. So think about the founders and the CEOs who have shaped entire industries, the ones that you can name without thinking. What do you remember about them? Not their product specs, not their revenue numbers from a particular quarter. Well, maybe you do if it's 55 billion. But you remember what they believed. You remember the future they were trying to build. You remember how it felt to hear them talk about it. And this is not an accident. This is intentional storytelling at work. And here's where it gets really practical, because I don't want you to leave this episode inspired and then walk into your next pitch doing the exact same thing. So here's the pressure test. Pull up however it is that you're currently talking about your company, whether it's your pitch, your bio, your LinkedIn, your investor deck intro. And I want you to ask yourself 3 things. First, where does this start? Does it start with what you built, or does it start with why you built it? Second, can someone who knows nothing about your industry feel the stakes of what it is that you're solving? Not just understand it, feel it. And third, does it end with the vision of the future, or does it end with a feature? If you answered what I built, probably not, or a feature, you have a story gap. And the good news is that it's fixable. The story's already there. It's in you. It's in the reason that you started. It's in the late nights and the pivots and the moments that you knew that this had to exist. You just have to stop hiding it behind the product. So here's what I want to leave you with. The most dangerous thing a founder can do is assume the product speaks for itself, because it doesn't. You speak for it. And now you speak for it, the story you tell, the vision you cast, the humanity you bring into the room, because that's what determines whether people believe in what you're building. Not just understand it, believe in it. And belief is what closes deals. It's what attracts talents. It's what turns customers into advocates and investors into champions, because you're not just building a company, you're building a case for a future that doesn't exist yet. And the only way to get people on board for something that doesn't exist yet is to make them feel it so clearly that they can't imagine not being part of it. That's what storytelling does. And that is what separates the founders people remember from the ones that they forget before they ever get home. So here's your homework before you close this episode out. I want you to write down your 3 answers. Why does this matter to you? Like the real answer, not the polished one. Why does it matter right now? The honest context, not the market slide. And then why will it matter to the world we're heading into? Like the specific vision, not the vague tagline. Because when you answer all 3 of those clearly out loud without notes, That's when your story is ready, and so are you. And if this episode made you rethink about how you're showing up when it counts, I want you to share that with a founder who needs to hear it, because this isn't just about pitching better. It's about leading in a way that actually moves people. And as always, if you haven't subscribed yet, I want you to do that now, because every week we're going to break down actually what it takes to lead with influence in a world that has more noise than ever. So I will see you in the next one. I hope that you will go back and listen to previous and future episodes as well. Everyone have a great day. Bye-bye.